Hello and welcome to the CAPS Conversation series. I'm Brendan Mitchell and today I have with me Richard Silburn. Richard is the Director of the Language Centre at Manchester Metropolitan University, one of the most progressive and innovative universities program-wise in the world today. Welcome, Richard.
Hello.
Now, that statement that I said, the growing and innovative university, something that Manchester Metropolitan University is aiming for?
Yeah, I think so. Manchester Metropolitan is probably, I'm not quite sure, but it's one of the biggest universities in the UK. It's got about 38,000 students.
And growing, yes?
It probably won't grow that much in terms of the student numbers, but I think it's growing in terms of the number of international students.
Okay,
so
now
previously, it often focused on recruiting domestic students from the northwest of England. Sorry.
And is the university right in the centre of Manchester? Is it?
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
Yep.
So it's in what's becoming, I think, like the university zone within Manchester. And the university zone, I think, has played quite a big part in the regeneration of the city, and also the city itself has international ambitions. It wants to be a kind of a sort of first tier international city, and it sees the universities as playing a role.
For sure. Now, I know some of our viewers are going to be interested in this. How far is the university and the education zone away from Old Trafford?
I don't actually know. About a mile, perhaps.
Oh, so very close.
A kilometre. It's a short bus ride or a tram ride away from Old Trafford. Yeah.
Now, what about from Etihad?
Same kind of distance.
The same?
Yeah, the centre of Manchester is not actually very big. You could actually walk around it quite easily.
Okay.
But then it has these other towns and cities on the outside of it. So Greater Manchester is quite a big city.
I'm sure the students would enjoy living and studying in Manchester on the whole. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the largest sort of student cities in the UK. Between the University of Manchester, Manchester Metropolitan University, there's also the Royal Northern College of Music, and they're all next to each other. There's probably well over 80,000 students.
Whew, that's a lot.
And a good proportion of them from all around the world as well. So.
Okay. Approximately how many students, or the percentage of students, are international at Manchester Metropolitan?
At Manchester Metropolitan, it's about 5 or 6% at the moment. Which
not a lot.
No, that's pretty low for a large UK university in Manchester. So the university's ambitions are to grow this number to effectively double it over the next few years.
Okay, that's quite good. I see anything sort of more than 15% of internationals. Sometimes the international students don't get that real experience that they're coming from. So that sort of target is, in my opinion, is good.
Yeah, I think it wants to maintain the essential character of the university, which is being in Manchester and part of the city, but also internationalising at the same time.
And in the language centre, how many students do you usually have, let's say, per semester?
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one to count. Probably a few thousand, but they're not all our students. So you have students who are studying modern languages as part of their degree programme, so we run that so they could do business and Arabic, or business and Mandarin, or Spanish and German. So we have, I think, about 1,000, 1,200 students every year on these programmes. And then we have a lot of students doing English who are already on their degree programmes, so they can do academic English development, and it focuses on quite specific things, like, say, writing a thesis, dissertation writing, referencing, paraphrasing.
Yep.
But those courses are free for all the international students, so they kind of sign up and then come along to the session. So it's probably about 1,500 students over the year who attend those, but they're not with us for very long. And then we probably have another 200 to 300 students throughout the year on various different courses. So we've been doing an IELTS training course recently. Had some students from the Turkish Ministry of the Interior. Okay. And then over the summer we have a lot of pre-sessional students who are going to go on to study their degree programs.
But if I come back to what you first said there, you offer a number of support courses for international students for free as part of their degree.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So if you're an international student and you think that you might need some additional guidance, Manchester Metropolitan University, and this offering could be for you. Now, But it didn't all start at Manchester Metropolitan University for you, did it? You commenced your career as an English teacher.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to become an English teacher?
I think it's probably two things really. One was that I wanted to travel, and I graduated university and kind of moved around from one job to another and not really found one that suited me, and I wanted to kind of go in it and see the world. And the other thing was that I'm from a family of teachers, so my father was a teacher, my brother's a teacher, so
Yep.
it seemed kind of natural that was a way of doing both things. So that was what led me into it.
And it led you to Japan first, yes?
Well, it led me first to do my Trinity cert in Colchester, so not too far away. And then
Not too far away from Ipswich, is
not
that?
too far away from Ipswich, yeah. So
Yes.
and then after that, I then started to look for jobs in Japan, which was just I guess I'd never been outside Europe before, so I'd only ever been to neighbouring European countries. I just wanted to go somewhere that was kind of completely different. And Japan was at that time a good place to work as well.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, nice people.
Yeah,
Great culture.
Everything about it, the culture. I was able to learn the language a little bit as well, which was a bit of a surprise to me, because I thought it would be too different. And you meet a huge range of people when you teach in Japan. That's what I always remember. In a single day, you could meet kind of housewives who kind of come in at lunchtime and just want to have a bit of a chat, and then you have kind of children at various ages, and high school students who are studying quite hard for exams, and then university students, and then professionals from various different countries. So
certainly varied.
Yeah, and then all within a single day, and then so that's quite an interesting environment to work in.
Certainly keeps the time ticking over.
It does, yeah.
Now after Japan, you moved back to the UK, living, working and completing a master's degree, yes?
Yeah.
In
English language teaching at the University of Essex.
And you enjoyed that?
Yeah, that was, I think, really learnt a lot about teaching and education, and in particular about course design and program implementation, which was kind of what I then went on to work in quite extensively.
In Greece first?
Yeah, it started in Greece, but more so when I was in China as well. I was involved quite heavily in sort of curriculum design and syllabus design. So a lot of the stuff I did on my masters, I think it helped me probably 5 or 6 years down the line. It became quite interesting. It also got me into teaching English for academic purposes, and also teaching at a university, which was what I think.
This was in Ningbo, Nottingham University in China.
No,
was it?
No, I started off teaching at the University of Essex. So whilst I was doing my master's degree.
Ah, okay.
I don't think you can do this nowadays, because probably the universities have rules about how many hours master's students can work, but they were basically short of teachers on their summer course. They were looking for like a qualified teacher, so I had obviously my Trinity cert and some years experience in Japan, and so they kind of approached me and said, would you be interested in teaching on this course? And that's how it started. So I did the interview and they gave me a job. It was only for about 5 or 6 weeks, but I really enjoyed it. It's really kind of interesting, and
certainly set you up for when you went to China, because you've definitely progressed by leaps and bounds in the career, from teaching to management on all aspects of English language teaching there. Now, but you arrived at Ningbo in 2006, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
How long had Nottingham University been open then?
It was, I think, 2 or 3 years old. It's 15 years old this year, I think.
So you were one of the people that actually helped really grow it, in essence.
Yeah, I wasn't one of the people who were there right at the beginning, but I was in that first kind of wave of people. And so yeah, at that point it was really just a branch of the UK, and really you had the English Language Centre, which was one big bit, and then the business school. And that was kind of all it was, and there were other little kind of courses running along around the side of it. But when I first went there, I wouldn't really describe it as a fully sort of functioning university, which it kind of grew into.
Whereabouts in China? Where's it located?
Ningbo,
Where's Ningbo?
Ningbo is on the eastern seaboard, and if you go south of Shanghai, you'll find Hangzhou over the river, and then if you carry on going south a couple of 100 miles, you'll find Ningbo.
So how far on the train?
Nowadays, on the bullet train, it's about 2.5 hours. It used to be about 6 or 7 when I first went there. They built a bridge across the bay. So.
Ningbo is an education centre in China, would that be correct? To some extent?
No, it's a port city.
Port,
so
yeah.
I think it probably is becoming more of an education centre. It has a huge education zone, and Ningbo University is quite well thought of, but not in the same way as Hangzhou or Shanghai. But its main thing is it's a massive port, so it's reasonably international, and it has a kind of connection to the rest of the world, which I think that they wanted to kind of exploit when they set the university up. I'm not entirely sure why they chose Ningbo, to be honest. No, I think it might be because something to do with the president, who's a guy called Yang Fujia, who's a very well-respected and kind of eminent Chinese physicist, and he must have had some connection. And he was also I think he was also in a senior position at Nottingham.
Okay.
So that's how it came about, I think.
So you spent close to 10 years there.
Yeah.
You must have liked it.
Yeah, it was a good place to work. It was a good environment, and you could learn a lot very quickly. So I think the great thing about China and is that everything moves at a very fast pace, and that sometimes can be challenging, but the benefit is you can accomplish a lot in a short space of time. And as a career, you can also learn a lot of things in a very short space of time that maybe would take you longer if you'd remained in the UK. And you probably get opportunities given to you that you probably wouldn't get in other places.
Especially if you stay around there as well.
Yeah, well, I think so.
Rather than just bouncing around like some air.
I think because it's developing so quickly. If you're started off working just as a teacher, and that was like, we were paid and we'd go in and teach the course that was given to us by the UK, and then we'd do that marking, and then we'd have a holiday, and then we'd do it again. And that was the kind of model, and then it kind of changed to actually we need to develop our own course, or we're going to have engineering students, so they're going to lead a new course, or architecture students. And then you need people to actually look at how those courses are designed, how the assessment is designed. And so that's kind of how I moved into more of a management role.
And that's something at Manchester Metropolitan University. You've mentioned those specialist programs there, the architecture and business, for example. I think Manchester Metropolitan University's got some of those foundation programs in specialist areas, is that correct? Are you developing them?
We don't particularly on the foundation year, but we do on the pre-sessional sort of
okay, the pre-sessional.
We've got more,
yep.
We're starting to get, again, architecture students. Architecture is a very popular subject because the Manchester School of Architecture is quite highly ranked, and so increasing numbers of international students want to come and study them.
Where do most of the international students come from at Manchester?
They're actually quite diverse. There isn't one particularly large group of students. Obviously, China is probably the biggest everywhere, but it isn't quite the same sort of scale as it is in some other universities.
Yes.
And then I think there's a lot of students from India. They possibly don't come through the language centre because they've been taught in English as well.
Yep.
And Malaysia and the Middle East as well, but from all around the region. So
for sure.
Quite a few students from Saudi, quite a few students from Kuwait we have there now.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Fantastic. I'd like to thank you, Richard, for your time today. And it's been interesting to learn about you and also Manchester Metropolitan University. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.